Everything about it, Tim, was 180 degrees different than what we saw earlier this year, right, when one of the most brusque displays in the Oval Office in recent memory. What we saw when President Zelenskiy even arrived from the White House, he had a suit on, right, which was the starting point of the contention during the last meeting. He and President Trump exchanged some friendly banter about the president's attire as well. And then that warm tone carried over into the Oval Office spray that we just saw.
What do we understand right now about what is the current position of the other European leaders that are in attendance at the White House right now?
Well, it's unclear exactly what the position is right now. One of the positions, I mean, obviously the fact that they all hurried, some of the most powerful leaders in all of Europe, hurried to Washington, D.C. to be here. And I think that not to be lost with the comment that we just talked about with the attire, you can see that Zelensky was coached and prepared by some of his counterparts in Europe who understand the stakes right now. Just given the about face that President Trump has made in the last couple of weeks, we saw the president go from threatening secondary sanctions on Russia, India for buying Russian oil, and then he had the meeting on Friday in Alaska, in which he came out largely understood to be towing the line that Vladimir Putin had suggested about a peace agreement before a ceasefire. So you could see Europe wanting to make sure that the United States doesn't pressure Zelensky into taking a deal that would threaten that alliance with NATO, but also cede too much territory from Ukraine.
Well, help us understand where the daylight remains here between the U.S.'s position and perhaps the European position. Is it fair to say, Mario, that the European allies, at least who showed up alongside with President Zelensky today, they want the exact same thing that Zelensky wants? Or perhaps a better way of saying that is they would be willing for Ukraine to give up and ask for the same things to end this conflict? Are they aligned here?
I think it is safe to say that Zelensky and the European allies are very much so aligned. Now, a couple of things that came up during the spray that we knew about as well. President Trump was non-committal but not hostile toward the idea of some type of U.S. security guarantee. That lines up with our reporting over the weekend that Europe and Ukraine wanted some type of guarantee of U.S. backing going forward as to prevent or deter Vladimir Putin from launching another attack at some point against the country, vis-a-vis what happened after Crimea as well. Some of that, again, President Trump seemed open to without necessarily committing U.S. troops or intelligence. He characterized some of the support on our artillery and weapons as being sold to NATO and essentially making their way to Ukraine, as opposed to just handouts, is how he characterized it previously.
Zelensky said that Ukraine is ready for a trilateral meeting with Russia and the U.S. I'm wondering how realistic you think that is, that we do get that trilateral meeting, and what we could see come out of that potential meeting.
Well, I think it's a positive sign that Zelensky invoked it, because we know that that's something that President Trump dearly wants, right? So part of the gambit with Trump and the dynamic, I should say, between Trump, Putin, and Zelensky is that everyone knows that Trump really wants an end to this war. He kind of alluded to it as much in this Oval Office spray, where he said that he thought that this war would be one of the easiest to solve. Recall the campaign pledges that he made to satisfy it on day one. He says that it's been much harder for him to get to that result. A trilateral agreement, according to the two men, would signal that some progress has been made, both in this bilat with Zelensky, also coming off the heels of the bilat with Putin, and then whatever the White House discusses with the European leaders, and find if they are able to find some common ground as well. So a trilat would signal something going in the right direction, and the fact that Zelensky seems open to a trilat also is a positive sign there.
Mario, based on your reporting and the reporting from the Bloomberg team, the analysis, the analysts that you and the team have spoken to, is it realistic to think that this war could end without Ukraine giving up some sort of territory?
That, based off of our reporting, that does not seem very likely. It'll come down to what parts or what territory Ukraine would be willing to cede. We saw President Trump over the recent days mentioning Crimea, specifically, that Ukraine wouldn't get that back. We know that Putin would like the eastern flank of the country, representing about a fifth or so of Ukraine's territory, maybe possibly even solidifying the battle lines from the war. Whether or not Ukraine will be on board with that, whether or not that's too much of a price for Europe as well, we'll see. But I think it's fair to say, based off of our reporting, that some territory will be, at the very least, some territory will be ceded to Russia.
Hey, before we let you go, Mario, speaking of your reporting and the team's reporting, Bloomberg News reporting that the Trump administration is set to discuss taking a 10% stake in Intel. This is a follow-up to the Thursday exclusive from our Bloomberg News deals team. What have we learned since then about what this stake could look like?
Well, it looks like it's moved forward. Last week, we reported that was something that was on the table. Today, we reported that it does look like that's a 10% stake or so, to the tune of some $10 billion, $10 billion plus dollars. It would be essentially grants under the Chips and Science Act that would be converted into a U.S. stake into the beleaguered chips maker.